the Methadones Career Objective. They did a re-release of this a couple years back. Original album came out in '03, but the Methadones, are you familiar with them at all?
So whenever you send me that on the list, I didn't know who you were talking about until I saw the logo, like the brown logo, with the little thing pointing up on it that I saw from one of their later albums. I hadn't heard it though. I listened to it this afternoon. Really enjoyed it, and it kind of
Oh,
fit
that
with
makes me
the
happy. Awesome.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
The three albums that I was a little less familiar with, I gave them full listen to.
Okay.
This afternoon just to get a flavor, and not one of the ones we're talking about, but two of the ones that I was slightly less familiar with, they have that same theme. Like you
Yeah.
told me how you're not really into pop punk, but you were into Ramones core, and I think it really is bleeding through on a lot of the things that you're submitting from that list. Not
Oh,
that that because they're kind of Ramones core adjacent, right?
so I'll give you. Here's the secret to all this. I didn't listen to this stuff until like 10 years ago.
Oh
When I
wow.
was in 2003, you wouldn't have caught me dead listening to this, bro. I beat the shit out of kids that listened to this.
Mhm.
Like, it was like a divided line because those kids were just like snotty, snobby. It was like the college core stuff. Like they were just had this like air about them, like, oh, we're better musicians because we were all poor kids. The kids that played
Mhm.
this music weren't necessarily of that ilk. Like,
Mhm.
and looking back on it, they probably were closer to it than I realized. But back then there was this line, right? So Methadones, yeah, I call it Ramones core. The album is 13 songs. It's about 39 minutes and change. It's got fast songs and a lot of guitar solos. I wrote that down because I didn't want to forget about it. And the gang vocals I thought sounded really good on that album. Dan Vapid of Screeching Weasel and the Riverdales is the singer and guitarist of this band, and that's a big part of it. I was never a big Screeching Weasel fan, so I find it really interesting that I like this band so much because I do, and I like Screeching Weasel. Okay, I still listen to them sometimes, but they're not like I know people that like that's all they like is Screeching Weasel type
They're
stuff.
dedicated to those Screeching Weasel fans are like all
Yeah,
in. Yeah.
I like this guy's monotone singing style, and I believe that this might be, in retrospect, my favorite record of the entire year, including
Hmm.
Rancid. I think this might be my favorite record of that year. Like going back and sifting through the records that came out in 2003, this might be the one that I now like the most. And so when I say that I don't like pop punk stuff, or not, that's not even what I said really, but like this to me is far different just at its core than something like Mest, even Blink 182, Sum 41, Newfound Glory, bands that I like. Okay, I like these
Mhm.
bands. I even have an appreciation for that Mest album at this point. This is still stuff that these guys would have toured with bands that I was listening to. They might have
Mhm.
had a different style of music, but they would have toured with Defiance or the Unseen. Maybe not that street punk stuff, but like close, pretty close,
Mhm.
man. This is more like, Berkeley and Green Day and Op Ivy. They would have toured with those bands, but like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying though? Like this is still
Mhm.
like DIY.
They'd be let in the door. Yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm stoked that you had never heard this, that you heard it and that you liked it. That really genuinely makes me happy. I Yeah, man. I this album I haven't been listening to since it came out. So like a couple of these records I didn't hear when they came out. Like, well, a couple of them I absolutely did, but like
Mhm.
a couple of them I didn't because I wasn't into that kind of music until later on. I said 10 years ago. That's probably not true. I probably got into this 5 years after it came out, 2008.
Mhm.
Before I met my wife. But I mean, for a long time, I listened to nothing but rap because I'm from Houston, man. Like I listened to
Mhm.
nothing but chopped and screwed rap because that's what was around. Yeah, I don't even know. This record's awesome. I love it. It's very Ramones Corey. It's very uh yeah, it's that. It's fast, short songs, melodic, poppy punk rock. I don't
Mhm.
think pop punk and poppy punk rock are the same thing. I think,
Agreed.
yeah,
I call there's capital P pop punk, which I would classify like Mest as, where it's actually a genre, so to speak, where it's its own form. Where I call lowercase pop punk, which is pretty much everything else. But
yeah.
if you want to put it into a genre, like the Ramones Corey stuff would be the stuff that kind of define. Like when I think of that, I just think Lookout, like just basically whatever the
Yeah,
Lookout bands
yeah,
were.
lookout
Yeah,
stuff that was on there was a couple of
Lookout,
record labels.
Kung Fu probably
Kung
a little.
Fu, yeah.
Yeah, a little go
But there's a
kart
lot of
maybe.
those bands like, yeah, I mean, but the older I get, okay, so you know where this comes from though? Is that I liked One Man Army, I liked Pistol Grip. Those bands are very rock and roll.
Hmm.
These bands are very rock and roll. And I
Hmm.
think it's like I got to where I couldn't find any more of these like rock and roll punk bands. and it led me down as a matter of fact, I didn't like the Ramones till I was almost 30.
Mhm.
Like, I just didn't care about them. I was like, dude, I mean, I'm glad they existed because we needed them, but like, I don't care about the Ramones. I want mohawks. I'm pissed off. I wanted dirtier than that, And there was a one period where I listened to a lot of ska, like a lot, bro. Like more than I want to admit. Like, it's too much ska. Like, yeah, plaid fucking jackets and stuff. Like, no good.
I seen the Slackers were coming to town this week, and I was like,
I love the Slackers.
Yeah, I wish he was in town. He'd be so happy,
bro. That'd be so good. Oh man. Yeah, dude. I mean, we don't have to keep talking about Methadones. They were a great band. I knew that one of the guys was in the Screeching Weasel. I didn't realize it was the same dude from the Riverdales. I love the Riverdales. It's another one of those 50s doo-wop pop punk Ramones core bands. I freaking love them.